Hello and thanks for watching or listening to VIP Boxing's Bell to Bell podcast episode 113. We're back after a short Easter break this week with John Evans as always, and a special guest this week, a serious prospect. There's a lot of them seem to just come out of Bolton. I don't know why. I don't know why every prospect seems to come from Bolton that I speak to. Anyway, this is a guy that's sorry.
It's in the water.
In the water, yeah. Well, this Bolton prospect who's just signed with Matchroom, 10-0, super lightweight, Khaleel Majid. Thank you for joining us tonight, Khaleel. Your first time on the podcast. Privileged to have you on.
No, thank you to yourself and John for having me on. Appreciate it.
Yeah, well, so, you've, what shall we say, been learning your trade on the small hall circuit. A few of us knew your name and seen you once or twice, and suddenly it's announced you're signing with Matchroom. How did that come about?
Yeah, so I was in talks with a few promotional companies leading up to this last fight of mine. But obviously Matchroom was the right fit for me to go, and obviously I got myself a new manager. And the opportunity was there, and it's a no-brainer, to be honest with you. Matchroom is the biggest platform in the world, and it's guaranteeing me what I need in my career. So it was the right move for me to make.
Yeah, going to someone like Matchroom with a new manager, Khaleel, and they've sought you out and look for you. It's good, isn't it? You know, you're not being thrown into the away corner having to prove yourself. You're not going to be put into a 50-50 on your debut, are you? And have to show that you're worth your place. It sounds like you're going to be built and made into what you could potentially become.
No, to be honest with you, I think I've done my building on the small hall shows. So it's not about, I'm going to Matchroom and carrying on building. I'm going to Matchroom now as like being a fighter that served my apprentice in the small hall shows. Now it's kicking on with my career now, trying to get to title contention now. That's the next step in my career.
Oh, is that what you're gonna pester them to really push you on quick? You're not interested in having your profile built. You want to go?
Absolutely, yeah.
So when can we expect to see you make your Matchroom debut and hopefully get win number 11? Because like a lot of boxers at the moment, I'm guessing Ramadan has meant, has slowed this year a little bit, because I think you're in the final days of that now. In another week or so, I'm guessing it'll be full on again training. Well,
this is the final week left of Ramadan. I got offered May 27th at the Manchester Arena, the undercard of Lee Wood, yeah. But it's only 3 weeks after Ramadan, and for a 8 or 10 round fight, I'm not going to be ready in 3 weeks. So we're looking like it's going to be July.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Looking
so what
forward
would that
to
be?
it.
An 8-rounder, a 10-rounder?
So I've got an 8-rounder, and then I've got a 10-rounder in September. So so once I get going, it's just constant activity, which is what I've been asking for.
And then you'll be badgering them to get you out in December, I bet, as well.
Of course, yeah. That's what I want. As many fights. If it's up to me, I fight every week.
Yeah, if people listening to this have just seen Khaleel Majid drop in their inbox on the Matchroom press release, or seen something on Twitter, watch his last fight against Jamie Quinn, because everybody will know Jamie. I know he's a little bit smaller, but everyone's familiar with how tough Jamie is. And just watch the job Khaleel does on him. Really impressive, and you get to see his style. Really good fighter to watch.
Yeah, that's high praise for you there, Khaleel. John Evans sending people to watch you, mate, eh? Anyway, well, I'll tell you what, this is where you're going to earn your corn. Not that we pay any corn on this, Khaleel. We're going to start our 6 rounds of chat now. What happens after 3 minutes? John rings his bell and
the bell comes out.
Gets to that. And this week, I think you want to start us off, Khaleel, with round 1. And there's only one place to start. It's what's happening this week. Davis v. Garcia. Fire away, Khaleel. What's your opinions?
From when the fight was announced, I was thinking Gervonta Davis. But as it's gone on and on and on, I'm leaning toward Ryan Garcia. So my prediction is Garcia to win.
What makes you say that? You said I've been reading a lot of people suddenly changing. I think I saw a clip with Eddie Hearn last week, and he's changed, I think, to Garcia.
Well, it's a 50-50 fight. It's like, I keep swaying, but I think this final week I'm settling on Ryan Garcia. I just think he's maybe too big, too sharp, and I think the height and size might play a factor in this fight, because Gervonta is quite short. Yeah. But obviously I know Gervonta's got the rehydration clause on his side. So but that will play into Gervonta's favour. But I think this is Gervonta. I've been watching the All Access, the training in between both training camps, and Gervonta is studying everything what Ryan's doing, even in the training session. So you can tell they're both really up for the fight. But I think Ryan just seems to have that little bit more confidence going into the fight. What's your opinion?
Do you want to go first or me, John? Or...
Right, well, I'm pretty much the same. As it's gone on, it's a sign of a good fight, isn't it? I've started thinking, Garcia could cause him problems, that size, that speed, that length. But no, I'm sticking with Tank. I think Tank's could really genuinely become a superstar. And I think he might have problems early because Garcia's quick and sharp and clever. But I just think Tank will work it out. I think Tank's had the tougher tests. He's been in with tougher people. And I just think he's got that X factor, Tank. And that's why I'm picking Davis.
You know what? It's going to be 2-1 against you on this, Khalil. I'm going for the Tank as well. Look, they're both at their peak or fast approaching it, so we'll call them at their peak. And it's a fight we got to celebrate, isn't it? I've got a feeling Garcia's going to give him all the trouble in the world because he's got that speed and everything. But I know they're playing down the rehydration clause. I think it comes into play. Garcia has left his chin out to dry a little bit at times, and I think late in that fight, Davis is going to find it around the 10th feet late in that fight and do him. But I think it's going to be. I'm really expecting something special. It's one of the few fights I will get up in the middle of the night for now.
It's a genuine fight, yeah.
Brilliant, and I'm big. I've been big on Davis since day one, and I'm not not for turning now.
Yeah,
we'll see on Friday when they're both on the scales there.
That's it, yeah.
We will.
And then I look on my WhatsApp on Sunday morning with you saying, I told you so if Ryan Garcia wins.
Yeah.
Round two, you just want to sort of carry on a little bit, John, from that.
Yeah, it's a non-title fight, isn't it? Patch weight even for some reason. 1 pound above the lightweight limit, Garcia and Tank. And I'm just wondering if this might start a bit of a trend of big fights not having to have a world title on the line. It not being a fight, I'll never win a world title. It might surprise you that, but it's very difficult to put myself in a fighter's position. Yeah. But I once we've achieved that world title goal, and you're into this stage where you're getting paid multi-millions, why do you want to be giving a percentage of your fee to these sanctioning bodies? I'm just wondering if opinions might start changing. And once fighters have achieved that lifetime ambition of winning the title, doing what they wanted to be as a kid, whether the title belts might just get pushed to one side and start making these big catchweight fights.
Well, I agree with you, John. I think every boxer who comes into the game, it's the dream to win a world title. But after you win the world title, the next kind of goal is to, financially secure yourself and your family. That's the next goal after a world title. So I think the big fights will happen after fighters win world titles, and then they can meet in the middle on catch weight. And I was reading something, I think previously about Dillian White. He was getting annoyed with the WBC paying him a commission fee, even though he wasn't fighting for the world title. So obviously, yourselves, a lot of politics what go into boxing, but this fight it is kind of bigger than a world title fight because the whole world's going to tune in that kind of aspect. So what's your opinion, Steve?
I think it's a super fight. You know what? But, John was saying, do we need these titles these days? I think from what there was 20 years ago or so, I'm going back, well before, you was a baby, I'm going back to it. There wasn't such a demand from TV to have these titles. When you go back, I think, there was no bauble to the Gatti Wall trilogy. Obviously there was other, fighters around. I mean, we had great heavyweight fights, famous heavyweight fight. I don't think Gallotta Bowe was for a belt. They're two fights. Mercer Lewis. And I just think a lot of the demands these days are TV demanding a title to sell to the casuals. I think that's an issue as well. And it's great we haven't got it this weekend. It's a great fight. Doesn't need a title. Yeah.
Look, Haney and Lomachenko are fighting for all the belts in a few weeks' time. Tank and Garcia is just as big. It's probably bigger fight. It's getting more attention. More people are interested in it. And there's no titles on the line. Can you imagine if the two winners fight, though, for all the titles at 1-3? That's the ideal world, isn't it? All the titles, the best fighters, but it just seems impossible to do that. So,
wouldn't it be great, though, if these two had delivered something special this week and there was a close decision at the end, hopefully not controversy that everyone starts shouting to the rooftops about how wrong boxing is and hooky it is. You know, that someone wins late when they're trailing on points and we set up the rematch. I'd love it if this could become a trilogy, because it is such a fight, and that you do it is appealing, I think, to a few people outside of boxing, because of, you know, people have mentioned it to me who aren't boxing fans, and they know Garcia more than Tank because they're young people who are on Instagram.
Yeah, it's like the. Oh, sorry, we finished. The bell went off.
He's serious with this, you know, this bell.
yeah. No,
anyway, round 3, I'll tell you what, I was reading something today where George Foreman named Tyson Fury as his favourite active fighter. And I was thinking about this. I seem to change my mind on my favourite active fighters over the months. I might enjoy someone might put in a special performance. And I just wondered where you guys are at the moment. I just loving Inoue. He's been number one for me for a good few months. I cut about a year now, and I just think him and Stephen Fulton in July is just going to be something else. You know, how rare is it we got two fighters who are most probably both in the top 10 pound for pound fighting for us here, like those two. And Fulton's I love Fulton as well, by the way. I remember when he was over as Carl Frampton's sparring partner. Living by himself in a little flat in Worsley for a few weeks. Incredible. And my favourite British fighter, John, I know this, Liam Smith. So there's my favourites. We're going to go to you, Khaleel, first.
Well, at the moment, since the second one, Liam Smith, I'm a big fan of Liam Smith. I like this. It's inside work, the way he puts pressure on. I mean, if I wasn't a boxer, I'd love to scrap that Liam Smith, if that makes sense. But yeah, since he's been active in his career, he's just getting better and better. Considering the age he's at, he's performing each fight. And secondly, yeah, I'm going to go with Inoue, just because for such a short guy, the amount of power he has, he's just a beast, isn't he? Yeah. I can't see anyone beating him.
John?
3 out of 3, in a way.
Oh, I knew you would go Liam, yeah.
In a way, yeah, I love him. And you change, don't you? When you first start watching boxing, you like the wars and the sluggers, don't you? And I used to love Gatti. And then I went for a spell of loving Rigondeaux. I went over to watch Rigondeaux and his big fights. He drives you mad, but I love him. Yeah, Donaire and Loma and all, yeah. But he drive you mad. But now Inoue's got everything, and he's got that one-shot snapping power. He can finish someone with one shot, or he can outbox them. He's just great. In Britain, it's the big three, isn't it? Scotney, Warrington, and Denzel, who was fantastic on Saturday. They're the three.
Denzel, yeah. I should have mentioned Denzel. But what I will tell you, Khaleel, you can never say a word against Denzel Bentley to John Evans. He cuts you out forever. But you know what? You go back favourite fighters, one that's lasted for years. No one's ever, for 20 years, no one's ever taken over Holyfield as my favourite fighter of all time. I've loved him for, 30 odd years now.
Who's your favourite of all time, Khaleel?
My favourite of all time is, Roy Jones Jr.
Yeah.
Brilliant. What a light heavyweight was near to untouchable you'll ever see, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whatever early light, before he the weight come back down and it's super middle.
I was there the night you beat John Ruiz in Las Vegas.
Was you there that night?
Yeah.
Didn't know you went to that.
Sorry, mate.
What was it like, the atmosphere?
Oh, yeah, it's great. Yeah, talked ourselves into the weigh-in and all sorts of stuff. Yeah, it was great fun. Yeah, my hero, right?
Round 4. Khaleel, you're going to talk about Joe Cordina for us. Big chance for him this weekend.
Yeah, I really like Joe Cordina. I think he's I speak to actually someone yesterday. I think he's an excellent boxer. So obviously, it's a shame what happened that he got stripped from his world title injury. But I think he's got the tools in the bag to win Rakhimov on Saturday.
Yeah.
If there's any justice, he wins. And I've always followed him. I'll never forget, was it the 2016 Olympics he went to?
Yeah. I think, 2016, Rio.
2016. I remember I was working for Boxing Monthly at the time. And about a month before it, we did a Q&A with Frank Warren and Eddie Hearn. not together because I don't think they've ever met. But I asked them, Eddie and Frank, the same set of questions. I think someone else as well. And I asked Eddie of the British Olympic team, who will become the biggest superstar? And this is back in 2015. And he said Joe Cordina.
Well, he was right, wasn't he?
Yeah, and I just hope he can become a big star, because it was criminal that they stripped him of his belt. And I think he beats Rakhimov. It's not an easy fight. I still think, John will have a say here. I still think Zelfa Barrett fell apart, was a big help to Rakhimov winning that fight, the way he alarmingly fell apart from about round 6 or 7. I think that was a big reason for him winning that fight.
Yeah, but Zelfa had a few weeks training prior to that. If Zelfa had a full camp, in my opinion, he was winning the fight. Yeah. If he had maybe just a few more weeks training, I think he would have won the fight.
Yeah.
Whereas Zelfa was brilliant, wasn't he?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he was brilliant, and he showed the exact way to beat him. Fast hands, movement, variety, be aggressive. That's what Cordina is, isn't it?
Exactly.
Maybe Cordina's got more of that snapping one-punch power where he can really hurt Rakhimov early as well before Rakhimov gets into his rhythm. But yeah, I think Cordina will win, and yeah, he should never have been stripped. So fingers crossed he wins as well.
I think he'll win in style myself. I think the knockout, it was at the Japanese guy whose name escapes me. That was a brutal knockout, and I hope Zelfa shines on the undercard, because I'm sure if Zelfa wins, there's only one. The first defense, I'm sure, will be against Zelfa, unless the IBF are throwing on some sort of mandatory.
Well, that'd be a big fight in Britain, wouldn't it? Joe Cordina and Zelfa Barrett would be a brilliant fight.
Massive fight.
Zelfa's proven it to be a good fight as well now. The way he performed against Rakhimov, it's made it a big fight, hasn't it? And it's good promotion as well, putting him on the undercard. Making sure Zelfa's not forgotten. We'll talk that storyline up all week, won't we? And we'll have Zelfa giving his thoughts on the fight. So yeah, good bit of promotion. And if the two lads do the job, then we've got a real big fight for September, haven't we?
Absolutely.
Thanks a lot. John, Styles make fights. The juggernaut.
Oh, yeah, God. Sad day on Saturday. I nearly wore a black armband today because we love the juggernaut on this podcast, but he had an absolute nightmare, didn't he? There's no dressing it up. He didn't know what to do with the southpaw. And as good as Zhang was, credit to him, because I thought he was really, really good. Joyce never had a plan B, didn't know what to do to get out of the way of that left hand, and it just turned into an absolute disaster for him. What an example of Styles making fights.
Yeah.
Orthodox fighters who throw shots, Joyce walks them down, gets them out, but he could not work out how to step to his left or use that jab properly or lead off with a straight right hand. It was just a horrendous style matchup.
Obviously, Khalil's the important person here as a boxer, but he'd only fought ever one southpaw before, and I think that was a blowout of Leroy Thomas. I'm sure that's the only southpaw he's faced. It looked to me in camp, who did he spar with? What did they tell him in camp? That's the question I want to know. That's why I'm asking you, Khalil, because you're in camps, you spar.
Yeah. Well, the left hand couldn't miss him all night. He literally was just pinging him all night, and then he didn't adjust. There was no plan B. But I was reading some comments, and I think it was the lightest he's weighed for some time for the last few fights, and then that could have took the snap out of his punches. I just read something. I'm not sure how true that is. But
it was 2 stone light now. Yeah,
he's a heavyweight, and he didn't adjust. I like Joyce. I think he's a great fighter, but I think in the rematch, if they did have a rematch, obviously he'll change the game plan and he'll beat him. I believe he actually will beat him, but it's just on the night he didn't perform and he just couldn't stay away from the southpaw left hand.
You know what? I'm always reluctant, and it's really unfair to write off a fighter after a defeat. It's something that's done too easy, and I don't want this. You think I'm being negative, especially you as a boxer, Khalil, because you've been in there. But I think I've said on this pod, what I always feared with Joe is it's like hitting at the oak tree, is the analogy I always use. You hit the oak tree long enough, you knock it down, it never gets back up. And I've always had that fear about his career, that when he has that first defeat, I think it's going to be hard for him to get that momentum back. And I really hope I'm wrong. And I don't want to sound negative about someone who's been a brilliant amateur in that WSB. It's been an amazing career. And I hope that if Joe hears this, he doesn't take offense. It's just a fear I've always had with his career.
I mean, Joe, he looks very one-dimensional, but he gets the job done. Like now, it could just be an off day, regardless, But I'm more than sure that he'll come back and he'll rectify the loss.
Yeah, you would expect so. And I tell you what, if you put him in against an orthodox heavyweight out of the top 10, I'd still pick him to walk through the shots at the moment and get to them and break them down. But it was pretty bad, was it? It was a bad night for Joe.
John, before we go on, John, do you think he wins the rematch, John, if they rematch later?
I wouldn't go anywhere near a rematch.
No, but if he did, I wouldn't. But
no.
But what else? I'm sorry. Carry on. What do you think? What would you do if you were? I ask you both this. What would you do? I'll ask you first, John. What would you do for you next in your career if you were Joe Joyce?
You know, is it worth even having a confidence builder at his age and his style? No. He's not going to reinvent the wheel, is he? I just think you find the highest ranked opponent willing to fight him, and take him on and just keep going. But I think a rematch could be the end of his career. So I'd steer away from a rematch if at all possible, and just try and find the highest ranked opponent willing to fight Joyce.
Would you go for the rematch then, Khaleel? Because I think you sounded quite confident he could win it this time.
Yeah, I think, obviously me talking as a boxer, I think mentally he'll want to overcome that loss, rectify the loss, and then once he rectifies it, he can push on with his career, especially with the age and stages at his career. All the belts are kind of sewn up, so it's difficult which way he manoeuvres. And considering the rematch clause, I think he'll have no choice but to go back to the rematch in order to move on.
Khaleel, how big a turnaround would that be? He's not just lost a split decision there. That was a pasting. Can you tell the people listening just how big a challenge it is from signing that contract for a rematch with someone who's, well, you obviously have never been in that position. But
yeah, of course.
How difficult would that be?
I mean, I can't really talk for Joe Joyce, but as a boxer, I'm sure he'll be overthinking it. Where's he gone wrong? How he can put things right? And I think just as a boxer, you wouldn't want no one to think they have a beating over you. If that makes sense. So I think most likely he'll make some changes, and he'll go back to the rematch and win. I don't see why not. Obviously, it could be an off night. It just could be.
All right, we're on to our sixth and final round. I just want to talk about Moses Itauma, Moses the Mountain. I just think, I'll tell you something, I'm not going to name the trainer because I was told this privately. The trainer said to a good friend of mine the other week, I had a boxer in my gym the other week, a heavyweight boxer, and it's the best young boxer at any weight I've seen. So I had no idea he was talking about. He was talking about Moses Itauma. And that 6th rounder against Konstantin, was it Dovibyshenko, will do him so much good. It's so much better than this, getting these Argentinians in and knocking them over, the guys with ties hanging over their belts. He will have taken so much from that fight the other night. And what I just wish he would forget this. Obviously there's got to be hype. Boxers have to have hype around them. Hype's good in the sport for them, but I just wish he'd forget this idea of breaking this Mike Tyson record and becoming the youngest champion, and just get on and just have great. He's never had a senior amateur fight. He'd never fought without a head guard until a few months ago. Forget that and just get matched perfectly, and he can become a champion who reigns for a long time. I thought that was a superb fight for him the other night, and people who were going on moaning about the opponent, saying he was just an overweight cruiserweight, were talking absolute nonsense. That fight did him so much good the other night. He injured his left hand, but he knows what it's like to face a bit of pain in the fight. I'm still so excited about this guy.
Yeah,
I agree.
Go on, Khaleel.
Sorry, you go first. Sorry.
No, go on.
I mean, he's only 18, so I know he's trying to beat Mike Tyson's record in order to become a world champion. But Mike Tyson was a special breed. Whereas this Moses is very good. I think he's medalled at every amateur tournament.
Yeah, every juniors, yeah.
Yeah, every juniors. But I think as a pro, especially heavyweights, you usually tend to develop a lot later on in this era. But from what I've seen, I like what I'm seeing. He seems mature, seems like his head's screwed on, and he's getting the results, and he's blowing out people. But these 6 rounds he's done will pay him benefit down the line, because when you're challenging for titles, you might you might go the distance, and you've never done the distance, so you don't know how you're going to react in down the line in the rounds. You might get tired. You don't know how you're going to feel until. So like these 6 rounds now, what he's done is going to help him for the future.
Tyson was a man, wasn't he?
Yeah.
When he was that age. Moses isn't yet. But the thing I liked about him was a heavyweight who goes to the body. You know,
He's a very
from the opening round, the guy was clammed up and he was touching him to a body, and they're stepping around the angles of the uppercuts. And he's got a bit of everything, hasn't he? He's so light on his feet. He moves like a light heavyweight. So and some of it, we all have sparring stories, don't we, from what Moses has been doing in the gym with some world-class fighters. So, sensational talent, sensational. And seems like you said, Khaleel, seems like a real good lad as well. You know, he's a good talker. He's confident in himself. He's got everything. And, fingers crossed we don't rush him into something, because he could be a bit of a superstar.
I mean, as I know, it's got to become, there's all, you know, as a young fighter yourself, Khaleel, and I'm sure you're going to find this now, there always has to be an angle for these fighters to sell to the public. And I get that totally. It's just that, maybe because I'm a lot older, that I'm, you can call me a dinosaur, whatever you want. I just find in this generation, this current climate of social media, boxers get this, is going to break this Tyson record. People remember it and stick to it, and when they don't, they bury them. And it's just that side of it that worries me for him, because these people stick to every word. Everything you've said or is predicted now is documented. And you could say something now 2 years ago. There'll be a quote from him now: "I want to beat Mike Tyson's record." And when he's only British champion in 2.5 years, people will be digging it out, calling him a wally. It's the cruel side of what life is at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Crazy thing is, he's probably 15 years away from his peak as a heavyweight.
Yeah.
32, 33 is a heavyweight peak, isn't it? He's 18 years old.
But you know what? The money he's earning at 18, I mean, I'll ask you again, Khaleel, this before we go. If you was for 15 years, the money he's already on, the money he could have by the time he's 33, how would you keep your motivation? If you had 30 million in the bank, how would you keep your motivation to box?
I wouldn't. I'm gone.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
You know what? You wouldn't know until you're in that position.
Yeah. You know what? Never a quote Lennox Lewis said. When I was on newspapers, Lennox Lewis used to have these sit-arounds before his fights in his hotel and that with. And one night we were just chatting and he was chatting about the money and and he said to me, and he didn't say how much he's got. He said, but what he was saying, if you had 50 million in the bank, you'd want 51 million.
Yeah, you're always chasing, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, fellas, that's flown by tonight. Khaleel, it's really kind of you to come on, especially we recorded this in Ramadan just before it's time for you to go and break your fast. It's been very good of you to join us tonight. John, great to have you as always, and I'll catch you next week. Khaleel, thanks very much more than anyone for coming on tonight, and thanks everyone who's watching or listening, and you can leave us a review on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, whatever. Thank you very much.
Info, news and latest interviews, amateur and pro, across the north. Click and subscribe. VIP Boxing Promotions. Also Twitter, Instagram and Facebook.